Good morning all and welcome to the series of webinar hosted by Numerical Analytics Instrument Private Limited. So far we have completed number system and algebra in our previous sessions. So today we will be continuing the series of webinar and we'll see the basics of function today. So this is the part 1 for the functions. In the coming next 2 parts, we have 3 parts for the function. So today we will taking the basics of function, and in the next session we will be taking the transformation of graph, and in the last session we'll be taking the advanced function part. Today also our presenter will be Mr. John Paul Raj from the Cathedral and John Connon School, Mumbai. So let me tell you, those who have joined for the first time with us, that these webinars are the recurring webinars and held every Saturday at the same time, 11:30 a.m. So if you have any question in between, you can write in the chat or you can raise your hand to speak. We will unmute you. Also, at the end of the session, we will be having a Q&A session followed by a quiz session. Okay, so stay with us and happy learning. So over to you, Mr. John Paul, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Yeah. Is it possible for me to share my video? I can show the students.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You can share. Yes, sir. You can share.
Yeah. I thought I'll just say hello to everyone, and maybe they can put a face to the name. It says I'm unable to start my video, but never mind. You can check that. Good morning, all who are here. It's wonderful to see so many students who've been part of this series. And there's Aniruddha who's asking a question even before we started. What is this regarding, Aniruddha? Is it what graph? My memory is not very good. So your voice is feeble. How's it now? Aniruddha? Better. Okay. I'll try and keep it better. What is the question that you were talking about, Aniruddha, about questions, graph questions? You can just be a little bit more specific than.
Hassan, why don't you unmute Aniruddha?
Yes, sir. It is the so I asked for more questions like the bus and car park graph kind of questions. Yeah, for practice.
The activity, you mean? The activity we didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still didn't receive it.
Yeah, Aniruddha, we will be giving you those activities. No issues. After this session, we will be providing you that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Cool. Again, this is a basics lesson on functions. Some of you probably have seen some ideas of functions in your classes already. Can we just have with a show of hands, maybe just say you have started functions in your school, or this is assuming all of you are in grade 9, okay? If you just have a show of hands, and then, I can get an idea of how many of you, there you go. You have started with functions in your class, in your school. Raise your hand only if you have started with functions, okay? Gives me an idea of...
Feeble.
What's that?
Your voice is still feeble, sir.
Feeble. Again, there's a feeble. Yeah, it's called voice modulation. No, man, I'll try it, okay? Is it better now?
Yes.
All right, slightly better. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. Just let me know if it's not clear at all. Okay, so there is only one kid who's raised his hand saying that they've done functions before, and no one else has done anything to do with functions in this class, in this group right now. Okay, anyone in this?
No.
So Harsh. Okay. All right, so we'll see how we go about it. What I want to do is I wanted to, as you can see from my screen, this is what I wanted to do. So if there is a question regarding some idea that is not clear, just make sure that you wait till the Q&A part, or like we have always done, you could put it on the chat and someone will get back to you, or just wait till I happen to see the chat and then I'll try and address that question. But considering what my plan for today is, functions basics using the TI Nspire is what this webinar is all about. But even if there's some conceptual thing that you are not clear about, we can try and address it. But there will be a time for Q&A, or once I'm done with something, then I can look at your plan. My plan basically is a very basic idea, because it's a basic session on functions, but still covering as much as possible on using the calculator. And I will keep it as much as possible, as close as possible to your IGCSE exams. So the examples that I've chosen to illustrate these are all questions from the IGCSE paper. So even if I've picked up something, it will be from the past papers. Okay, so you will know that what we're speaking about, what we're sharing today, is gold. Is gold, because we are not just going to throw in things that hey, look at this calculator and what this calculator can do for you, but more so to do with how these examples and these features that we are going to share with you today, are actually some things that are helpful in the exam. All right, so the examples are picked up from the calculator section, paper 4. Paper 6, we will probably, some other day on some other workshop webinar, we can do something exclusively only for a paper 6. But for now, with the calculator section and in functions in place, all right? Because these functions topic will also come in paper 2, where the calculator is not allowed, but primarily because we are speaking in terms of the TI environment, it just makes sense to give you questions from paper 4. So that's the plan for the day. And let's jump straight to defining functions. We all have already come across this syntax for defining or assigning a value for an expression, and that gets repeated. In my opinion, that's probably one of the very powerful things, as far as the timing for an exam is concerned. I teach IGCSE, and my current grade 10 is done with the syllabus, and we're actually doing some review series. And often when I do the review series, I ask the students, how did you do it? How did you do it? Just so that they are also mindful of the examination timing. And when it came to the calculator part, I would ask the students, okay, tell me, and I'll punch in those values on the calculator. And they were not doing something wrong. One or two students had got it right. It's not that they were doing wrong, because, something can be done in more than one way, perhaps more than 2 ways. But when you think of exam, you should also keep in mind the time that's allotted. Okay, so the best possible way, the most effective way of using the TI Nspire, the smartest way to use the TI Nspire, is what we will try and highlight today. Okay, so in that, keeping that in mind, I believe that assigning that, the way we assign a function is paramount. It's a very powerful technique. It might seem very simple, but it's very powerful. So to illustrate this powerful feature, let's take an example from a question paper, right? So I will go back to my question quickly on the OneNote. And the question that I have to illustrate defining functions and using this define function to evaluate other values, that's 1 and 2 on my agenda. I'll take a look at a question. I don't recall which year this was from, but that's a function given to us. It's a cubic function, x cubed minus 4x squared plus 15. F of x refers to the y values. Okay, so if you look at the table, they said complete the following table for y is equal to f of x. So y are values based on x, y values are based on x for each of those values that's in the table, -1, 2, and sometimes you may have more than that value, okay? You have to put down the values. The smart way to do it is defining the function x cubed minus 4x squared plus 15, because traditionally what's known is that you would substitute x equals -1, and then you'd find -1 cubed, 4 times -1 squared plus 15, evaluate that and put it there. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. It just takes a little bit more time. Okay. Likewise, you put for 2 cubed minus 4 times 2 squared plus 15, evaluate that expression. It takes time. You got 3 points. Exam, time's ticking. So how can we assign this using using that assigned key that we saw in algebra. And then how quickly can we find out these values at -1 and 2? So stay with me and we'll go with this one step at a time. It's x cubed minus 4x squared plus 15. All right, so I'm going to enter that expression on my calculator. That's the calculator page, not any other page. Okay, so we will type it as it is. Okay, so I'll just type in f of x as they've given in the question. I'll use the assigned key. The assigned key is found in control and this key on the right hand side of 9. That gives me the symbol that looks like colon equal to. That basically assigns, right? So I'm just going to type in as is required x cubed, x to the power of 3, minus, I think it's 4 something. Let me just take a look at that expression again. It is 4x squared plus 15. 4x squared plus a 15. And once I've done that and I hit enter, the calculator should say done. That means, you know, it's gone into the memory of the calculator. F of x is x cubed minus 4x squared plus 15, assigned onto the calculator, done. Now, you can enter what values you want on the table, whatever is given on the table. So if you just type in F, it'll show bold, F in bold, meaning, you know, the calculator recognizes that this is assigned in the memory. You don't have to type that expression again and again. So you can just say F of -1 and just hit enter. And it should give you the value at x equals -1. All right. Let me just check quickly whether my calculator is set to 3SF. That is something that we need to be careful about. 3 significant figures. If you go on home and you go to settings and you go to the document settings, and there you can keep in mind that it's at float 3, which means that's 3 significant figures. I think these details were done in the algebra section when we were doing the overview, the important things, but it's always good to check, you know, if it's there, great. That means up to 3SF, our answer is correct. F of -1 is 10. Okay. For those of you who are not familiar with this feature, you know, I can evaluate it and show it to you. Okay. So if I just put it as -1 and then I put a cube on it, just keep an eye on how much time this is going to take. Okay. -1 cube minus 4 times -1 square. So there's a -1 and a -1 square and plus a 15. This is not wrong. This is what you're trying to do, right? And if you enter, it'll give you 10. But that's a smarter way to do it. You know, just put that expression, define it, and then you call it for any value that you want. So in our question that was there in on that IGCSE paper, the question was to find the value at -1. Once you defined it, you got the value there. Then they asked for 2. Do the same thing. If you have your calculator, you can punch it, try it out on your own right now. Okay. Define using the define key. Remember, define key is on the right hand side of 9. You have to use control and that key, the template key, and you can do that. And same way, if I say f of 2, it should give you the value at 2. You know, any decimal value at 1 point, let's say 2, although this was not required, I just showed you that anything that you want to evaluate, a value of a function, the moment you've assigned it, there you've got it. Okay? The second part of that question is to graph. And this is again helpful when you have assigned it. See, it says on the grid, graph, draw the graph of the function. And they've given you values of x -2 to 4.5. That's the domain of the function, all right? The input values. However, when you look at the grid, you know, this is the first thing you should be careful about when you, before you start graphing. Look at what the x and y values are on the grid, that is, okay? They have given -2 to, I think that's 5, you know, or 4.5, you know, there's 3 to 4, and then that probably is 4.5. And they've asked us also 4.5. Can you see that? So -2 to 4.5. So I think, you know, first thing you should watch out for is what is the minimum value, maximum value, kind of the window settings, and the minimum value and the maximum value for y. So that's -10 for y going up to 30. The reason I'm saying these things is because, you know, graph questions will be for 4 points, and you should try and get how to maximize on the question, you know, where not to lose points. Because, you know, you can use your graphing calculator, figure out the graph, and then it's all a matter of sketching. You know, it's almost like what you see in the calculator, you got to take a look at it and then graph it. So why lose points there? So today I'm going to also show you where students can lose a point. What should you do so that you do not lose any of those 4 points that's awarded? Because, you know, it's just like punching in those numbers. And the first thing, like I said, is watch out for these minimum and maximum values. All right. and it's the same function. So you don't have to even repeat entering it. So let's go to the calculator and now see how you can graph this within this value, these values of x and y that you've given, okay? So y values run from -10 to 30, and x values run from -2 to 4.5. So here we go to our calculator, and we want to graph screen, but we've already defined. So we'll add a same, on the same problem, a page, a graph page. And here, I still don't need to enter that x cubed and all those kind of stuff. I can just say cap the f, see, again, it shows bold. And bold means the calculator is recognizing that there's something in my memory with f, okay? So I just put f of x, and there you have the graph. There you have the graph. But it is not in the specified window setting as the as was required in the question paper. In the question paper, you had the minimum value of x as -2, and here on the calculator screen, you can see the minimum value is -10. That's like the preset. Okay, so let's change that quickly to what our value was. So -2 to 4.5. I can just click on that. I can type -4. Now, when I hit tab, it goes to the next entry on the y. The y was 30. And then I hit tab, it goes to the next entry here. That was a 4.5. And then I hit tab again, and it comes down to this one. And I think that was -10. All right, let me just check that quickly on to my, what do I have that? So 30, -10, -2. Yeah, there you go. I've got the graph. And now, as the graph appears to you, all that is required is sketch the graph. All that is required is sketch the graph. Now, now I'm just telling you, watch out for this. Okay, so I'm just, although your question doesn't say indicate the important features, although the question doesn't say indicate the important features, just go ahead and do it. And what are the important features in terms of this graph? Can anyone tell what are some features that are important in a graph when you just see a graph like that? What are some important features you've studied about graphs? Max value, that comes in the question later, but good. Max value is one of the important. Anything else? Something basic. Max, min, okay. Anything else? Y-intercept, good, very good. Y-intercept, please make sure that you've indicated those points, okay? Y-intercept. From this, so when you just sketch the graph, because it'll be a freehand sketch, right? It need not be artistic. You make sure that you have indicated what the y-intercept is, what the x-intercept, at least those two. Max and min, if you do, great, because some questions will ask for max and min later on, okay? Even this question, I think, asks for that. But at least the intercepts indicate that in your graph, and your graph is a clean graph, right? If you had asymptotes, I believe you might have studied about asymptotes. Maybe in part 2, we'll talk about asymptotes. But the key features of the graph, please make sure that you indicate, and you will not lose your points, all right? So in order to find the y-intercept, you can just put y equal to 0. X is equal to 0. And if you want to just find that, you can even go on trace, and you hit graph trace, you can even use the arrow key, and where the graph is at x equals 0, you'll get the y-intercept at 15. So you can quickly use your calculator to find out what that y-intercept is and label it on your sketch, all right? If you want, you can go and find the x-intercept as the zeros, but since you're already on trace function, it's just about arrowing it down to the x-intercept, and it says, the word 0 pops out. So you know that when x equals 0, when y is equal to 0, the x-intercept is -1.63. So you could have done this using the zeros option, but like I said, from an examination point of view, time, okay, that is much more helpful. I'm thinking in that direction, okay? You could have gone and found menu, analyze graph, and you could have found zeros, and you could have done the, to find the zeros around that point, and it'll still give you -1.63. But since you're already finding that y-intercept using the trace key, why not just, push that arrow a little bit and then do it that way? It's just a matter of time and how you incorporate time. Cool, everyone? So far, so good? Any questions about these two features that I just showed you quickly? Anyone? Any questions? Sir, where is the trace key? All right. Okay, trace key, when you go to the graph function, the graph features on the menu, on the graph window, when you go on menu, you will see something called trace. Number 5 says trace. And then you can go to graph trace. Okay? Menu. Menu is like, I always tell my students, menu is like a lighthouse. Whichever window you are, you can go on menu and you can go on trace and you can figure out. In fact, there are more fun things about trace, trace all, trace path. But when we need, I'll come to that. Okay. I'm just trying to do specific things regarding that. There's something on the Q&A. I just came. Can you brief what happened? Somebody can brief you. I'll just go a little ahead with what I'm planned. But if you could stay for some time, maybe we can go ahead with the briefing. I'll go ahead with the plan that I had, and I'll come to that. Okay, so my next part in my plan was to talk a little bit about composite functions and how you evaluate composite functions. Here we go. This is what I had in plan. So graphing functions, we already checked it out. Composite functions, finding zeros, we already incorporated that. Then we'll go with this maximum minima. Somebody had already said that, and we'll work with solving inequalities. Okay, I have a couple of questions here already from past paper questions, and that will be good review. So whoever came and said something like, can you do a recap? Hey, you know what? Our examples will recap. So if you look at this question, there's a function. It says on the diagram, sketch the graph. So it'll help you recap over the graphing. And there it says right in the coordinates of the graph crosses the x-axis. What is that point called where it crosses the x-axis? Well, it says both the axis, right? Not x-axis, both the axis. That's the intercept, right? We just saw that, the feature of trace. So that will get also recap. Cool. Then it says solve. So we want to come to these questions, all right? And then if I go further down, it says right in the coordinates at the minimum point. So all these features are kind of the features that come in your question. So I thought the best way to do is just look at the questions, okay? And at the end, okay. And then how to solve these kind of equations we will do, right? And there will be some questions where which I have picked up, which I have not yet put here. If time permits, then I will put those questions also. But since this is a very basic thing on functions, I thought I'll show you some of the basic features involving the calculator that can be used. So let's go ahead and do another question, all right? This question, if you have your calculators with you, or if you have the, say the software with you, why don't we all try this, okay? We can check. So it will be a good review, a recap, so that if Hassan has a question for you in the quiz, you can be well prepared and you can hit on that. Hassan, do they have prizes for this quiz? I just thought.
No, sir, not this time. maybe at the end of the all these sessions, all these series of webinars, we can have.
That's a good idea. That's a very good
quiz,
idea.
Then we can.
That's a good idea. Maybe that's a good way to even encourage them to come and participate in these quizzes. And you can tell them that, hey, we are going to keep a track, So Anuruddha got so many points in this quiz, and whoever, Ranjit got so many points in the other quiz, or so if you keep a track of all those things, and then at the end of that, you can tally them, and I don't know, give them some chocolates or something for Diwali or something, and then they'd be nice to do. I'm having an error with defining functions. Cool, Harsh. Let's figure out how the error is coming out. So everybody, with your calculator, let's define f of x is equal to 10 plus x minus x squared, and that's the interval. But look what I said. First, look at the axis, 0 to 4, and that's okay. And that's negative to 12. And someone said, I'm having an error with defining functions. So Harsh, watch what we're doing. And Ranjit says, any. It doesn't matter, whichever one. Yeah, any. Cool. Any is fine. So I'm going to go back and let's try this question out on our own. It's a good way to practice and rehearse and review. Now I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to encourage you guys. I encourage students, don't delete the graph. Instead, create a new problem. So you have things there, even when, I'm thinking from the perspective of exams. Okay. So in the time of the exam, instead of changing and deleting your entries, I think it's a better way is go and insert. If you want to know how to insert a new problem, you can go and document, and you can say insert is in 4, and number 1 says insert a problem. Okay, so when you insert a new problem, again, you can come back to a calculator page. Okay, so 2.1 is a new problem, and here I can still use the same symbol f, but I can define a new function. All right, so let's go back to that. Harsh, watch what's happening. It's control, and that symbol should come. Okay, when I try to define a function, it does not work as the f is capitalized. Don't capitalize it then. I don't know why it should not give you, but then, did you get that symbol? Do you know what symbol I'm talking about? And then you have to just fire away the keys. It's 10. So how do I get How do I uncapitalize? Okay. Yes, if that is being done on the same problem, then you can do it at F2 in the same problem. The idea of F2, someone said that idea of F2, it can get a little confusing if there's too many graphs happening there, you know, so you could do that. It's not wrong. It's just, you know, F2, F3, just to keep it with the same vocabulary in the questions, it just helps. So yeah, Swati's already said if you hit Control Shift, then it'll uncapitalize your entries. Okay, so so let's enter this function as it is. It is 10, and I believe the question was 10 plus x minus x squared. 10 plus x minus x squared. So if everyone can enter that, 10 plus x minus x squared, not equal to x squared, minus x squared, and it should say done. 10 plus x minus x squared. And this time we just were asked to graph, unlike the earlier question that we saw where we had to find some values, we were just asked to graph, all right? So let's go to the graphing window, and I'll show you once again. You guys can adjust your graph accordingly. You all can adjust your graph accordingly. 0 to 4, negative 2 to 12. 0 to 4, negative 2 to 12 on a graphing window, okay? And you'll be required to sketch this. Just a little tip again, use your pencil when you sketch on the paper, okay? That is one of the instructions of the IB or IGCSE also. Use a pencil when you sketch, a nice HB dark pencil, because all these papers, when they're sent to the
Sorry to disturb
exam,
you, sir. Your voice, sometimes your voice disappeared.
What's the matter? My voice is not clear? Or is it disappeared?
No, sir. It went disappeared. Yeah, yeah, sir.
Okay. Can you hear now?
Now it's better, sir.
Yeah, it might be also my Wi-Fi. Okay, I don't know. It could be a combination of things.
Maybe.
It could be the Wi-Fi. So your software you can use in class, but you know, the exam, of course, you can't use the software, so you have to use your calculator. But all I'm saying is that when you're sketching, that use a nice dark pencil, because these things get scanned and the scanned response goes there. So one way to know whether your pencil is good, which I tell my students, is, you know, sketch something on a paper, scan it, email it to yourself, you know, as a PDF. You can then see whether your pencil work is legible or not legible. That's a good way to choose a good HB pencil. So practice those kind of stuff. So it's not just using the calculator, students. It's also, you know, when you sketch using a pencil, look at whether the pencil is good enough. All right, because they're going to use the scanned version of your answers. And sometimes, you know, graph is correct, but, you know, it looks very faint because the scan could not be good. I can't zoom accordingly on the calculator. What do you want to zoom? No, you just set the window settings, meaning, you know, the window settings, I explained it. You don't need to zoom. You just go and change the window settings. I'll go and check. Yeah. If you're not able to click here and do it, you can go to menu and you can go to the window zoom and the window settings on one. Okay. You can go on the window settings one. There you can manually feed in what the minimum value, the maximum value. You can even keep the scale as something that you want, or you can keep it as auto. Here you can manually do the window settings as it's required on the grid, and then you'd get the graph as it's required, and then you can graph it accordingly. Does it help, Siddhant? Cool. Shall we move on? Next part of the same question. If everyone has got the graph, let's move to the next part of that question, which says, this one also I want you to do it on your own using the calculator. We've already seen this. write down the coordinates of the points where the graph crosses the axis. It means both X and Y. All right. I want you to use the trace function. I did not get the graph. Okay. Can you do that quickly? Could you please reiterate how to add an already defined function when charting a graph? Let's reiterate how to add an already. Okay, one sec. If I've understood your question correctly, Harsh, let me do that. Okay. For the rest of you, I'm trying to answer Harsh's question. For the rest of you, so that we save time. A part 1. Okay. Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, 1 and 2. For those of you who think you've got it, go ahead and do the answer for this. And on the chat, don't send it. Wait for some time because I don't want to lose track of what people are asking. So I'm going to do 1A again, and I try to add the second graph on the sheet. Nothing happens. Okay, I think you are putting it on the same thing. I don't know why it should not give you, but I'll come to that. All right, I'll come to that. Yeah, Harsh, wait, man. I just said wait. That's why I didn't want everyone to jump. If you've got the intercept, just hold on to it. We just thought we'll review. But I'm going to go back one step and show how to enter the thing again, do 1A again. For those of you who did not understand, please pay attention. We are going to try and answer your question again. There are 2 ways, right? So I'm going to first re-enter this as in another problem, okay? In another problem. So I'm going to define it on the calculator specifically because I think this is there. Some other parts of this question require the calculator page, so I'm going to define it here. I'm going to use this control and the key to the right hand side of 9 to give you that symbol. And then I type in my function. It's 10 plus x minus x square. Okay. Everyone who had a doubt, watch that. F of x, I've said, not f1 of x, f of x. And then I said, I defined it. And then I add the graph page by pressing Control Document. I come to the graph page. And here I just don't enter. I just put f of x. I just put f of x. I didn't put anything else because fx was already defined. And there I hit enter and it gives me the graph. Now I need to adjust the window. So in order to adjust the window, I can even go here manually. Like I said, go on menu, window zoom, and I go to the window settings. And there I can adjust my window settings as 0. And I think it was 4. You can leave that at auto. And this was -2, I believe. And I don't know, that must have been 10. I'm not sure. Let me check. Yeah, something like that. Is everyone okay with that? I hope so. All right. The next part of the question was to find out the intercepts. Okay. So if you all have got the intercepts, the next part of the question is to find the intercept. This was 12 actually, not 10 as I put in the other one. Okay. You can go back and change that to 12. All right. And what was that? The X was 4. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. I got both the graphs absolutely right. The next part of the question was to find the intercepts. When I go onto the windows, I don't get the settings like you got. Okay, you got to wait for that thing. Okay, that's a technical issue. Maybe someone can help you. You got to go on window, menu, window, zoom settings. We'll talk about what you're getting and then, we'll come to that. Let's try and move ahead with this question, okay? If you don't mind, just wait for some Q&A part. Yeah, so menu, trace, and I'll use the trace option to get my intercepts. You can use the arrow till it comes down, and when it comes to where it says 0, it says 0, and that's the value. And someone said, how do I interpret the? Good question. Don't enter it on a calculator like that, on your answer sheets like that. Okay, don't even enter it like that. And this is not what you should be entering because they will not give you points for E, and that's just the scientific notation that's written on the calculator syntax. So you're getting something like this. And when I use the arrow back to my Y-Intercept, Y-Intercept just should be 10. For those of you who can understand the algebra behind it. Yeah, Y-Intercept should be just at 10, 0, 10. Okay, so you should not get it as E. So in order to check that, there are a couple of ways to do it. One, you can go in menu, and you can go on algebra, and you can do and solve, and you can say where the y becomes 0. So you can say f of x is equal to 0. That's f of x is y becoming 0, comma x, all right? That would give you the value as negative 2.7. Okay? Y is equal to 0, giving you the x-intercept. So there we got, what was that? Some other value, it get something like -4, something, some strange value it gave us. Let me just go to the trace. Let me go back to the trace. Yeah, -4e to the power of a -12. No, that's not quite that, right? It should get 0, 0. It's not quite the right answer because it's giving me the x value is 3.7. 3.7 is, that's the y value being 0. Okay, so you're not looking at y value, it's the x value where it's becoming 0. Okay, so how do you do n solve? Okay, we go back to our menu. We go to a menu and you go to algebra. I think we've seen this in the algebra sessions. Okay, you go there and you have to just type in, this is why I said, assigning f of x really becomes helpful. You can go f of x, and f of x is the y value, right? So when we say y is equal to 0, is giving us the x-intercept, and comma x gives you the syntax. So n solve is menu, algebra, and when you hit enter, you get negative 2.7. Is my function correct? I'm just looking at the, have I entered it rightly? 10 plus x minus x squared, that's right. Cool. In the same way, let me show you the next part of the question. I'm on it. My Siri started to wake up to whatever I'm speaking here right now. The next part of the question is an equation. It says solve f of x is equal to 1. Solve f of x is equal to 1. Again, we'll use the same n solve option. But this time, instead of saying f of x is equal to 0, can you boys and girls try out the same n solve option? Solve f of x equals to 1. Use the n solve option on your calculator and tell me what's the value. Put it on the chat. F of x is equal to 1. Use the n solve option, okay, on your calculator. Negative 2.5, Bhavya says, good. Let's check. Others, please check whether you get the same value. N solve, use the n solve. So we go on menu, algebra, numerical solve, but f of x is equal to 1, comma x. Don't forget the comma x, guys. That's the syntax. And all of you should get negative 2.54. Who said negative 2.54? Ruhan. I think Ruhan should get a special applause because you know what? Your question in your IGCSE is 3SF. 3SF. Okay? So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, 3SF. For those of you who do not know about that, the settings are on the home screen. You can go on the home screen, you can go on the settings, and you need to make sure that that's on float 3. Float is 3SF. Again, if you want to know about these settings, we have probably the recording for the algebra session when we had done all the basics. So making sure that it is all set to what your IGCSE paper requires and keep it to the 3SF. Angles, only when you come to angles and degrees, you have 1 decimal place. Otherwise, unless specified, sometimes they tell you, round off to 4 decimal places or something like that, but it's a standard rule that 3SF is what's required. So n solve, f of x is equal to 1, comma x should give you negative 2.54. Yeah, Aniruddha, you don't need so much, all right? You just need negative 2.54. 3 significant values, yeah. All right, we'll move on. We'll move on to the next part of the question, all right? The same question. That's why I didn't put extra questions. I thought one question would be good, more than enough. They've asked us to define another new function. Again, one more thing for you to practice. One more thing for you to practice. Everybody, g of x is given to you, x squared minus 10 log x. Base is 10, all right, for when it says log x. Please enter that, and there is a given to you. What is the window setting? It's the same window setting 0 to 4, right? It's on the same axis they've asked, see 0 to 4. It's on the same window. You want that graph. Okay, try it out, come on guys. G of x, a new function. Let's review. And then we should at least try and finish part B. All right, that is my goal. And then we can hand over to Hassan for the quiz questions and understand something Q&A. Right, using keypad. How to do GX? All right, type in G of X. I'm going to share screen. On that same question, type in G plus G of X. And you can put control enter, not control enter, sorry, control catalog. And you can type in x square minus 10 log x. And then you can go back to your graph screen. And now when you hit tab, please hit tab for the second entry. Tab. Those of you recall, all these are features that we saw earlier on. For those of you not part of that, I'm looking at subclasses. So your voice is gone from me. Yeah. Rolf, can you see at least? Put G instead of F. Yes, good. So once you've entered, you don't need to re-enter here. Just press tab. What is the equation? X square minus 10 log x. X square minus 10 log x. We just have to graph that. So once you see that, you should be able to graph it. Part 2, B part 2 says write down the coordinates of the minimum point. Write down the coordinates of the minimum point. I'm going to do that. They put the equation there for you. I'm going to do this minimum point. Let's go to that. I'm going to my TI Nspire. I've got the graph here. Both the graphs are there. The second graph is here in red. The first graph is in blue. There is a minimum point in that region somewhere. So you need to know in which interval, okay? So you can go to menu, analyze graph, and there you can choose minimum, okay? And it'll say, obviously there's more than one graph. So the first question the calculator is asking, which graph are you talking about? So you have to select the graph that we are talking about, and then it'll ask you for the lower bound and the upper bound. And you can give a nice lower bound, upper bound, and it'll say, okay, the minimum value for the graph is that, those are the coordinates, 1.47 and 0.488. Okay, so the calculator is not accounting the input into a graph document even after establishing the function. All right, Harsh, can you just wait? Let me try finishing the question and then we'll flow into Q&A, right? So just hold on to that, okay? I just want to make sure that everyone understands how we're getting the minimum, coordinates of the minimum. So once we've entered the function G, to get the minimum value, you go on menu, analyze graph, and choose number 2, which says minimum. And because there are two graphs, it'll ask you which graph are we talking about. You got to choose graph 2. Graph 2 is the second graph, and then you put the lower bound, upper bound, and you'll get the coordinates. So now when I go back to my question that I have for you, you can enter the coordinates there. You can enter the coordinates there. Can't we just use trace? We can, absolutely we can. But how do you know that that is a minimum? I mean, you can, I'm so sorry to say that. You can use that. But again, remember, this is where we keep in mind time. Exam soch ke karo na. You can do that. But once you have, the calculator giving you the minimum in 1, 2, 3 clicks, then you don't need to keep clicking the trace to come to that minimum point. Solve the equation, part 2, B part, sorry, 3. Solve the equation f of x equals g of x. F of x equals g of x is an equation that you need to solve. But because we have the calculator now with us and the graph where both the graphs are intersecting, it's a point of intersection where the two graphs become equal, where the two functions become equal, right? So let's do it both the ways, okay? First, let's find the intersection points. I'm going to show, whenever there are more than one intersection point, I like this option I'm going to show you first. It gives in one click, all right? So you go on menu and you choose, instead of going to analyze graph, I'll go to geometry, and at geometry, points and lines, and there's something called intersection points there. Okay, I'll show that back up again to show you where I came. So you have your two graphs, go on menu, geometry, points and lines, intersection points, because I use this option whenever I had more than 2 points of intersection. And all that you need to do, as it says here, click the 2 graphs. Which 2 graphs are you talking about? So the first graph mine is blue, and the second graph mine is red. And I just click that, and there I have the points of intersection appear even while I'm just clicking that. And so that's the first point of intersection. And here I have the second point of intersection. Okay. And when you say solve, you're referring to the X value and not the Y value. So the solution is 0.098 and 2.98. X value. That's one way to do it. Another way to do this, if you're on the calculator screen, here also you can go on and solve. Let's try and see and solve. And if I say f of x is equal to g of x, not sure if this is going to work, but let's try it anyway. It gives you one solution. And solve will always give us one solution. I think we saw it last time also. 0.098, one solution. But there's a trick. Okay, you can go and do and solve. I can back up and bring that thing again. We saw these tricks earlier on. I can put that condition here, the condition line, and I can write down x greater than 0.098. And it'll give me, oh, it doesn't give me. Ouch. Ouch. I wonder why. I'll find out. Next time I'll tell you why it doesn't show you. It should give me both the values. Normally it does. I'm not sure why it doesn't. But I think this is where maybe the other one wins over this calculator. But yeah, you're just getting one solution. Maybe that's the reason, nsolve is not a good option for equations such as these. Okay, it just gives you one solution even when you put x greater. Let me try it again. Why did it say that? If I say greater than 1, 1 sec. If I just say greater than 1, oh, there you go. It should give, that's why I said, maybe it's the rounding off error. It's giving only 3SF, 0.098. That's why it repeated. But I just said greater than 1, and it gave me 2.98. Okay, so those are the 2 x values of the points of intersection that we have. I think, where did you get the line? Which line? Okay, that condition line. All right, so the condition line is here, control equal to. All right, control equal to. So when I type in, go to menu, algebra, and I say nsolve, and let's just say I put whatever, f of x is equal to g of x. All the condition lines are control equal to. So if go there, condition line is, so control equal to give all conditions, less than, greater than, not equal to. So that's your condition line such that, okay? And there you can put whatever condition you want. So let's just say we mess around with it and we say, x greater than 3. We know that there is no solution, right? We know that there is no solution, x greater than. Let's see what it says. No solution. So with that, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to give you guys the chance to ask questions. All right, Q&A, let's go. Any questions, boys and girls? Remember, this is going to be continued, and we can come to, because the next one is an algebraic response. F of x minus 1 is equal to g x minus 1. Maybe I should, deliberately throw the CAS here. I know not everyone is using CAS, but if you want, I can show it to you on the CAS a little later on. But let's ask Q&A. Any questions, boys and girls? Time to speak up. What's the question? What's the difference between gx and f of x? They are 2 different functions, first of all. So can you please repeat how to define the function again? Sure, 1 sec. Let me do it again. Anonymous attendee, if you can please come with your name, that will be very nice. I think once we had already said, this is a webinar. We don't need to come in as an anonymous, okay? This is my personal thing. So come in as a name. We'd be happy to know you and speak to you in person. Let me just answer this question asked by somebody. So I'm going to go here. How do we define a function? Let's just insert another new document. Insert a document, a new problem, sorry. And I'm going to go through that thing again, defining. You type in the letter. Let's call it H this time. Okay, you can type in whichever letter you want, H of x. It has to be in terms of x, so that bracket x you need to put in. The symbol is on the right hand side of 9. It's called the templates. If you just click that, you'll get all the templates. All the templates. We don't want the template. We want the symbol for defining. So you can hit Control and that template symbol, which is on the right hand side of 9, and then you can type in your, whatever the function was. If it was like something like a 3x square minus, whatever, e to the power of x, just to make it a bit fancy, whatever you want, you can do that. If you don't, how did you get the new problem? No, how did I get the new problem? I'll come to that, man. Let me answer one question at a time. If you don't remember this symbol, an easy way to do it is just type in the word define. When you type in the word define, as you're typing, you see it's in italics. And the moment it changes from italics to normal text means there is a function called define. And you can just say define h, or let's say k, because it was showing k of x. And you can just type in equal to. You don't even have to use that symbol. Define kx is equal to whatever you want. You can type it x squared if you want, and this is quadratic, and it'll do the same thing. So just in case you don't remember that at the time of exam, you can even type the word define, and the moment the italics changes into normal text, that means it's recognizing the function. How did we get the new problem? New problem is found by inserting a new problem document. Number 4, insert, and number 1, problem. Any other questions, boys and girls? Any other questions, boys and girls? I thought I should show my face, but then Hassan has still locked the video settings for me. All right, no questions. Thank you. Over to you, Hassan.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the wonderful session. So I think many of the students have learned so much about the basics of function. And so, guys, if you have any question, sir is here, you can ask, or you can write it on chat. You can raise your hand, we will unmute you. So please don't go anywhere. We will be having a quiz session right away after this. So Ruhan, if you do you have any question? Okay, I think we don't have any questions, so we'll proceed with the quiz. So what I'll do, okay, one question. Adit has one question. Just out of curiosity, is x bracket x valid? John, sir.
Typically, no. I mean, you could try it. I mean, I've never even thought of that. Adit, good question. Let's try it. No? I mean, the only way to find out is let's try it. Agar hai to hai, nahi to nahi. So let's try it. What is it going to do if you do x? Let's try it. Okay. X bracket x. It probably won't because of the argument. You can't have. I mean, if you've done programming, if you've done a little bit of programming, it may not actually accept because it's the same letter. When you programming is a machine language, you can't use the same letter to denote. It might give us an issue, but I've never actually tried it. Let me just check it anyway for you, all right? And it is going to give, there you go, programmer function cannot have the same thing. So to learn more about programming, Hassan is going to do one session. So make sure you call your friends. What is valid? But other great question, and it gives us a nice way to even advertise what's coming up. So there are good things that you can program, and Hassan will show how the coding works with the TI Nspire. It's fabulous. I've done this as my class, and that's why my guess was what I just told you, that can't have the same letter as parameters and the label for a function. To know more about programming and coding, stay along with this program, series and webinars. Hassan is going to do something, I think in December something, Hassan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. 12 December,
yeah.
We will be having a coding session.
And,
Python coding.
And coding is a lot more fun. Yeah, and so you learn a lot more about these functions. Yeah, cool.
So guys, I want you to be with your handheld. So because this quiz has so many questions that you can solve with your handheld, and you can answer it after solving those questions. You have 2 minutes for each question. So be patient. Don't get very fast to answer. Okay. So I just want you to go to joinmyquiz.com. Okay. So I'm writing it on the chat, joinmyquiz.com. Open this in your browser, joinmyquiz.com. and enter the code 043630 and enter the code 043630. Be ready with your handle. So I can see the participants coming. Yeah, there you go. So we're still waiting for the participants. So any of you having any problem connecting to this join my quiz, just write it on chat. So anyone having any problem, just go to joinmyquiz.com. We're still waiting for the participants. And the code is 043630. Please joining students, we are waiting. So guys, I'm going to start this quiz. I think if you want to, okay. So 2-3 more. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute, then I'll start. Be ready with your handhelds. So, okay, I'm going to start now. Okay, I'm going to start. So here your quiz. All the best. So how to get entry line, guys? How to get entry line on your graph page? One minute. Open your graph page on your handheld. Try it. Try everyone. Guys, don't answer on the chat, please. So it's a tab key. You can press tab key always to get the next entry line. So the next question. So now you can see 14 have correct answer. So please take your time. You have 2 minutes. Try everything on your handheld, then answer. So now next question. Seconds, 5 seconds. All right. Time's up. So scoreboard, Harsh Ahuja. Number 1, Siddharth. Number 2, so 12 right answers. So the next question, which key allow you to see all the stored function? You have already stored the function, just see which key. Okay, I think no more answers. I'm going to end this question right away. Okay then. All right, time's up. Second now, Daita number 1. Okay, only 6 correct answers. All right, all right. Guys, I think most of you don't know about the attributes, but I have given the question. We'll see in the next week how we can change the attribute of function. So I'm going to skip this question. Yeah. Next question for you. So you have a function given. You need to find the inverse of this. I know we have done this, but let's see how many of you will give the correct answer on this. Let me just give you one hint. You have to use nsolve here. use and solve. Define the function, use and solve, get the answer. Time's up. Let's see. Oh, correct. Good, good, very good. Now, you have to find the zeros of this function. Just now you have learned the zeros, how to find zeros. Trace. Johnson has told you. You have time, define the function, plot it, find the zeros. Seconds. Five, four, three. Guys, time's up. So let's see how many of you given the right answer. Start on top. Oh, 7. 7 of you have given the right answer. So the next question. So the minimum value. Same funda. Guys, 1 minute. Seconds. All right. So maybe you have not seen this question in today's webinar, but in the coming session, we will be having these type of question as well. So it will give you one glimpse what we are having in the next session for you. Proceed to next question. So guys, I will give you only 30 seconds for this question. Which type of function is the graph? Somewhere you have seen these type of graphs. Five seconds. So I'm going to skip this because I won't give you much time on this. Seconds. So the next question. Name the interval where the function is decreasing. Okay, so you have not done this. No problem. I'll skip this. In the next session, we're going to see increasing, decreasing functions. Okay, what type of function is this? Give you a few seconds more. Done. Second last question for you. What family of graph do you see? Last question. What type of graph do you see here? Okay, done. So this was the last question. So guys, result time. So here are the results. We got disconnected. What just happened? All here's the summary. Here's the position. Harsh second, first Siddharth, third Ruhan. So guys, we have the summary, no issues. So guys, thank you for joining with us today. In the next week session, we'll be having some more new interesting topics for you from the functions itself. And Mr. John Paul Raj will be the presenter on that day also. So if you have any question, and also please,
Hassan,
yeah, sir.
Hassan, from this particular quiz that you had, if you
Yeah,
have,
yes.
since you have the record of the questions, if you have these questions where you saw many students not getting it or for whatever, keep that record and let me know, because perhaps some of those concepts need to be addressed. Or,
Yeah, correct.
I mean,
correct.
Good
Yeah.
if we highlight those, so.
Yeah, right. So guys, we will be sharing all these recordings to you. And also, if you want the previous sessions recording, you can always contact us on the educatorsupport@numericalanalytics.com. Or you can also, if you have any suggestions, feedback, anything, if you want any technical queries you can always write it us on technicalsupport@numericalanalytics.com. So do you have any question, guys? Yeah, Bhavya, thank you. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you for joining. Yeah, Mishi, thank you. Yeah, Rohan, if you can give us the details, or you can you give us the phone number so that we can always send you the WhatsApp message for all the webinars? Okay, yeah, Rohan, let me just add your email ID. Thank you, Rohan. We'll update you.